Ramesses II may not have been the first of his name, but he is certainly the one remembered as Ramesses the Great, despite his grandfather being the founder of an entire dynasty. One of the most celebrated pharaohs of the New Kingdom, Ramesses was considered a god, an exceptional leader, and a bane of his enemies. But as deserving as he was to be a king, his ascending to the throne was still a stroke of luck. How did Ramesses II claim the throne his elder brother and rightful heir to the kingdom was supposed to claim? How did Ramesses make a comeback after almost succumbing to a Hittite ambush? Why does his successor consider Ramesses II as the great ancestor? Welcome to Nutty History, and today, let's find out what weird things that were true about the celebrated pharaoh of the New Kingdom, Ramesses II. Viewer discretion is advised for this video, as some of this video may be offensive or disturbing. We, the makers of this video, in no way support or condone the actions of the subjects featured. Ramesses II was not meant to be a pharaoh, as he was the younger son of his father Seti I. Named after his grandfather and the founder of the 19th dynasty of ancient Egypt, Ramesses II was made Prince Regent when his elder brother passed away due to unknown and unnatural causes at the age of 14. Educated by his father in both politics and martial arts training, Ramesses II joined his father's army in his late teen years and proved his adeptness early on in military expeditions. Impressed by his accomplishments, Seti I made his sole surviving son the commander of the Egyptian army. Today, Ramesses II is remembered for his military exploits, achievements, his defense policies to secure the Egyptian empire's borders, and his conflicts with the Nubians, Syrians, Libyans, and especially the Hittites. He was a remarkable commander, and the Egyptian army was around 100,000 men strong during his reign. His successors remembered him as the great ancestor and considered him one of the most exceptional pharaohs who also excelled as general of their army. But all of his accomplishments may not have been realized if a small expedition against the Hittites would have gone awry. Ramesses II was still quite young when he was asked to command a small troop of Egyptians against the mighty Hittites. Today, this conflict is known as the Battle of Kadesh, one of the oldest battles recorded in history. The year was 1274 BC, and Ramesses II was attempting to recover the provinces in the north that were lost to the Hittites over the years. After a smooth and calculated one-year-long campaign, Ramesses' mission was coming to fruition, and the Battle of Kadesh was the last milestone. But it wasn't a short stop. The Battle of Kadesh was fought over a long period of time and still didn't have a conclusive outcome. Ramesses II led nearly 20,000 men and deployed 5,000 chariots on the battlefield against the formidable Hittites, who fought under the leadership of Muwatalli II. Even though Ramesses and his men fought bravely and fiercely, they found themselves vastly outnumbered, and the Hittite army managed to overwhelm them with a calculated ambush that nearly cost Ramesses II his life. But the narrow escape didn't deter Ramesses from his quest, and he retaliated to drive the Hittites away from the Egyptian army and saved more lives. There was no clear winner on the battlefield that day, but Ramesses II came out as the MVP of the hour. Following that battle, Ramesses etched his name in the annals of history as a courageous war hero and one of the finest strategic generals. His long and prosperous rule accomplished remarkable military advances as he expanded Egyptian territory to a size of phenomenal degree. With 66 years of rule under his belt, Ramesses II is considered the second longest reigning pharaoh of ancient Egypt after Pepi II Neferkare. When Ramesses passed away, his 13th son, Merneptah, succeeded him, but by then he was already 60 years old. During his lifetime, Ramesses stayed as busy in his bedroom as he was in his court, perhaps even more. This great pharaoh not only wed over 200 wives and concubines, but also as a result, sired a lot of children. Historians do not have an exact number, but the figures are close to 96 sons and about 60 daughters. That's more than 2 kids every year of his married life. Like many other great pharaohs, Ramesses II ended up in the Valley of the Kings after his death. He had a spectacular tomb built for him, like his beloved wife Nefertari, but grave robbers made it impossible for his mummy to rest in that tomb peacefully. Therefore, his mummy was moved elsewhere to be kept safe. A French doctor named Maurice Bucaille was studying Ramesses II's corpse in 1975 when he found that the mummy was threatened by fungus and needed urgent treatment to prevent total decay. However, there was an issue to have the mummy transferred to France for the said treatment. French laws required a valid passport for entry and transportation through the country. So, to comply with local laws, the Egyptian government issued a passport to the pharaoh. That makes Ramesses II perhaps the only person over 3,000 years of age to hold a valid passport for a time being. During the treatment, it was found that the ancient Egyptian ruler had naturally red hair, along with a sharp jaw, a sharp nose, and striking features. Historians also believe that he must have been a tall person with a well-built shape. The ancient Giga Chad, anyone? The secret of Ramesses II's success was to know when to use his might and when to be wise enough to use diplomacy. His peace treaty with the Hittites is the oldest surviving international peace treaty that has been unearthed. In the modern world, the concept of signing a peace treaty is fairly new and has only become popular in the 19th century. The conflict between Egyptians and Hittites continued for a while after the Battle of Kadesh. Ramesses led more military campaigns against the Hittites during the 8th and 9th years of his reign and successfully captured Dapur and Tunip. From there on, these two cities became the major issue of the conflict between the two nations, and skirmishes continued to occur until 1258 BC. The two nations eventually decided to forego violence. Ramesses II sat down with Hattusili III, the then king of Hittites, to come to an accord. The negotiations made between the regents that day are in the document that is now considered the oldest recorded peace treaty in the world. Despite leading so many military campaigns, Ramesses II didn't forget about the administrative duties he had to fulfill as a pharaoh. In fact, he was so good at it that his popularity among his subjects was very high, and he was considered a god incarnate. It was an ancient Egyptian tradition for the pharaoh to be transformed into an Egyptian god during his first Set festival. Set festivals were the jubilees that were celebrated for the time when a pharaoh would complete 30 years of their reign. From there on, the Set festival would be celebrated every 3 years. Upon being declared a god on his first Set festival, Ramesses established a new capital city for his empire called Paramesses, after his own name in the Nile Delta, and launched his campaign against Syria from there. The city flourished and saw rapid development in terms of prosperity and infrastructure under Ramesses' rule. It's a shame that over the years, the city couldn't hold on to its original glory and was destroyed, followed by people abandoning it. During his long rule of 66 years from 1279 BC to 1213 BC, he focused a lot on architecture. His fascination with construction caused the reconstruction of several structures, monuments, and temples. Furthermore, Egypt saw great architectural achievements in terms of diversity and design during his reign. He also honored both his father and himself by completing temples at Abydos. However, the most ambitious projects that Ramesses oversaw were the gigantic temples of Ramesseum and Abu Simbel. He let architects try a new style of architecture in terms of size, design, and complexity with both temples. Obviously, the most outstanding component that both these temples shared was the giant statues of Ramesses himself. The Ramesseum temple was constructed for the purpose of being Ramesses' mortuary temple and thus was built at the banks of the Nile River. Abu Simbel, on the other hand, was built in Nubia, south of Egypt. The temple has 4 massive figures of Ramesses II sitting on a throne at the entrance. Each of these figures is about 66 feet or 20 meters tall, but only 3 of them have survived the test of time. The 4th figure has been badly damaged over the years. Despite that, the Abu Simbel temple still has most of its grandeur that can be witnessed by tourists, as the building attracts a lot of tourists every year. Even though during his entire life, Ramesses II married over 100 times. His most beloved wife was Nefertari, who he married when he was still a prince. She was the one who went on to rule with Ramesses II and was referred to as the royal wife of the pharaoh. After her death, Ramesses ordered a spectacular tomb to be built in her honor. Today, her tomb is considered one of the most celebrated pieces of decorated architecture in Egyptian civilization. The tomb has beautiful wall carvings and paintings of the queen, and Ramesses made sure that the tomb of his beloved wife was one of the most magnificent in the Valley of the Queens. But what about the other 199 queens and concubines? Well, we hope you enjoyed these less-known weird facts about the near-perfect pharaoh of Egypt's golden age. Thanks for watching Nutty History. and please share and like the video if you want more.